My name is Eleanor Brooks. I am 66 years old, and at the very moment I was sitting at the head of a long dining table for my birthday, decorated with candles and fresh white roses, my grandson Ethan calmly walked up to me and poured a full glass of cold cherry soda directly into my lap. The ice hit the fabric with a soft clink. The cold, sticky liquid immediately soaked into my light cream dress, spreading into a bright red stain. Silence fell over the room, short, tense. And then Ethan, who was only 11 years old but already carried the confidence and harshness of adults, crossed his arms and said, "Mom says you don't belong here." I didn't scream. I didn't jump up. I didn't make a scene. I just slowly looked down at the ruined fabric, and then raised my eyes to my daughter-in-law, Laura. She covered her mouth with her hand, but her eyes were laughing. She giggled softly. My son David, standing by the bar with a glass of whiskey, only smirked. "Mom, don't dramatize," he said lazily. "He's just repeating what he heard. You know how kids are." "We were just joking," Laura added, taking a step forward, not with a towel, but to take the empty glass from Ethan. "You usually prefer your quiet house anyway." He just misunderstood. Nobody handed me a napkin. Nobody reprimanded the child. The guests, Laura's friends, looked away. Some were smirking into their glasses. I was the joke. In my own son's house, I carefully took a paper napkin, dabbed the fabric, and stood up. "Well," I said softly, with perfect steadiness in my voice, "I guess that's my cue to leave." "Mom, come on," David frowned. "We haven't even cut the cake." I didn't argue. I simply took my bag, nodded, and walked out. The cold, sticky fabric stuck to my skin as I walked to the car. But that feeling didn't hurt. It woke me up. The drive home was spent in silence. I didn't turn on music. I didn't cry. For many years, I had convinced myself that for the sake of a relationship with my son, I had to endure. I paid for their vacations. I paid for Ethan's private school. I gave money for a business that never became a business. I thought I was helping. In reality, I was just a bank account they occasionally invited to the table. When I entered the house, I didn't even change clothes. I went straight to the study, sat down, opened my laptop. The house smelled of lavender and old paper. The silence was deep, real. I logged into my bank account. Everything was there. The joint account, the auto pay for David's new SUV, the credit cards in my name that Laura used. For emergencies, she used to say. Emergencies looked like designer bags and spa days. I opened the first card, block. The second, report lost. Do not reissue. Next, the joint account. I transferred all the funds to my personal account. Tomorrow's car payment wouldn't go through. But I didn't stop there. I logged into the lender's portal and revoked my financial guarantee. The primary borrower was me, which meant the decision was also mine. It all took 23 minutes. 23 minutes to stop being their wallet. I closed the laptop, took a shower, and went to sleep. I slept better than I had in the last 10 years. In the morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., made coffee, opened the curtains, sat down with a crossword puzzle. The air felt lighter. At 7:42, the phone vibrated. "David," I didn't answer. 5 minutes later, again. Then messages. "Mom, answer. What did you do? Where is my car?" I calmly wrote a word into the crossword. Free. 4 letters. Liberated. At 8:05, there was a loud knock at the door. I didn't rush. Finished my coffee, washed the cup, walked to the door, opened it. David stood on the porch, in a crumpled t-shirt, messy hair, breathing heavily. "They took my car," he blurted out. "Good morning, David," I replied calmly. "A tow truck. Right from the driveway. The bank said the payment failed. You withdrew the money." "Yes, you have to put it all back. Call them." "It's a mistake." "It's not a mistake," I said softly. "I simply stopped funding you." He stared at me. "Are you serious? Over some soda?" I adjusted my cardigan. "No. Because I don't belong there. Your family made that very clear." And before he could scream, I closed the door. The lock clicked. And in that moment, I realized this was only the beginning. I barely managed to return to the kitchen when the phone rang again. On the screen, Laura. I already knew her tactics. When she lost control, she got louder. I answered and put it on speaker, placing the phone on the table. "Eleanor!" Her voice was sharp, almost shrieking. "What is wrong with you? David says you've gone crazy." I calmly sliced an apple. "Good morning, Laura. Don't play games with me." She raised her voice. "You left us without a car. How am I supposed to take Ethan to practice? You have your sedan, I reminded her. That's not the point. You also blocked the cards. I was standing in the store and my card was declined. In front of everyone. I paused, took a bite of the apple. Those are my cards, Laura. I closed them. Silence for a second. Then, an inhale. Deep. Preparation. Her favorite weapon. Listen to me carefully, Eleanor, she hissed. If you don't put everything back today, you will never see Ethan again. Before, that sentence would have destroyed me. I would have apologized, transferred the money, done anything just not to lose my grandson. But not today. I remembered how that child stood before me with a cold smile, pouring soda on me while his mother laughed. Fine, I said calmly. Silence on the other end. What? Laura whispered. If you consider me toxic, you should keep your son away from me. That is your right. Wait, that's not what I meant. I have a busy day today. Good luck with your shopping. I ended the call, and for the first time, it became truly quiet inside me. After breakfast, I went to the garage. For the past 3 years, they had been using my house as a warehouse. Boxes of Laura's unsold goods, David's old things, someone else's chaos in my space. They had a key. They came without warning, took whatever they wanted. I pulled out my phone and called a locksmith. He arrived an hour later. I changed the locks. Front door, back door, garage. Paid in cash. When he left, I closed the door for the first time, knowing, now this was truly my home. Then I drove to the store, bought boxes, a lot of them, and spent the entire day in the garage, without rushing, but with a clear purpose. I packed everything, every candle, every box, every single thing that didn't belong to me, taped them up, neatly stacked them at the edge of the driveway, covered them with a heavy tarp, and sent one message: your things are by the road. Pick them up by Thursday. After that, they will be thrown away. I didn't wait for a reply, muted my phone, poured myself some iced tea, and walked out into the backyard. The wind was warm, birds were chirping. My home no longer belonged to them. Around 6 in the evening, the phone notified me of movement at the entrance. I turned on the camera feed. Laura's car. They arrived, all 3 of them. David quickly walked up the steps. Laura was dragging Ethan by the hand. They looked angry, determined, as if they were about to storm inside. David inserted the key, turned it. Nothing. Again, nothing. It won't open, he snapped in frustration. Knock, Laura said. He began pounding on the door. Mom, open up. We know you're home. I pressed the microphone button. Please don't knock. You'll ruin the door. They flinched. You changed the locks? David yelled. Yes. Are you out of your mind? We need to leave Ethan here. We have an appointment at the bank. Laura said I was toxic. I answered calmly. I am respecting her decision. Laura stepped closer to the camera. Stop playing games. Open the door. My home is no longer available for your convenience, I replied. Your things are by the road. Have a good evening. I turned off the audio and just watched. They stood there, arguing, then turned around and left, their faces full of shock. They realized for the very first time I was not stepping back. 2 days passed in silence. I read, worked in the garden, lived, without tension, without waiting for calls, without fear. On Wednesday, I was at the supermarket when I heard, Eleanor. I turned around. Laura. She looked different, tired, less confident. We need to talk, she said. I calmly placed vegetables into my basket. I'm listening. She looked around. Things are very complicated right now. David is without a car. We canceled Ethan's camp. We're family. We shouldn't fight like this. I looked at her. I'm not fighting. I simply stopped paying. Her face tightened. This is over the soda. He's just a child. I stopped and looked her straight in the eyes. No. It's because you laughed. Silence. I was just speaking out of emotion. She tried to excuse herself. That is your relationship with your husband, I replied calmly. I am no longer a part of your finances. We won't make it, she whispered. Then you will have to change your lifestyle. I turned around and walked away, without a trace of guilt. For the first time, all the responsibility was on them, and I wasn't going to take it back. On Thursday morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The autumn light was starting to paint the yard in golden shades. The air was crisp and clear. I wrapped myself in a warm cardigan, poured coffee, and walked to the window. The boxes by the road were gone, so they had picked everything up. I felt neither joy nor spite, just peace. In the afternoon, the doorbell rang. I checked the camera screen. David, alone. In his hands, a small bouquet from the supermarket. Cheap. Uneven. Almost awkward. I opened the main door, but left the screen door closed. "Hi, Mom," he said quietly.
"Hello, David."
He shifted from foot to foot. "Can I come in? We can talk here." He let out a heavy sigh. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm really sorry. For everything. For that evening. For laughing. For letting Ethan behave like that. I watched him in silence. He continued. "Everything got out of control. Laura, she's just stressed. And I didn't stop it." He went quiet. Waiting for me to open the door, embrace him, and say everything was fine, just like before. But I was no longer that woman. "Thank you for the apology," I said calmly. He perked up a bit. "So can we fix this? The bank said if you reinstate the guarantee, they'll review the loan. And Laura really needs a card, just one, for the household." I looked at him for a long moment. My grown son, who didn't come for a relationship. He came for resources. "David," I said softly, "my accepting your apology does not include banking services." His face instantly changed. "Mom, seriously? I apologized? What more do you want?" "I don't want anything. That's the point. I'm stepping back." "So you're just abandoning us?" "No. I am allowing you to live independently." He clenched his lips. "You're doing this out of spite." "I am doing this out of respect for myself." Silence. I looked at the bouquet in his hands. "Take the flowers home. Laura needs them more right now." I closed the door. And this time, he didn't knock. A week passed, then another. My life became surprisingly quiet. No urgent phone calls. No requests for money. No underlying tension. One evening, my friend Mary practically dragged me out of the house. "We are celebrating your birthday properly," she said. We went to a cozy restaurant downtown. Candles. Wine. Laughter. No tension. No sharp jokes. No need to tread carefully. "Did you hear the news?" Mary asked, leaning in. "What news?" "Laura got a job at a clothing boutique. Works cash register part-time." I took a sip of wine. "Really?" "And David sold the SUV. Bought 2 smaller, simple cars so they could both drive to work." I thought about it for a second. Pictured Laura, not with a credit card, but with a work badge. Pictured David, budgeting money. "Does it bother you?" Mary asked. I shook my head. "No. It seems they are finally learning how to live." Mary smiled. "To boundaries. To boundaries," I repeated. We clinked our glasses, and for the first time in years, I wasn't talking about them. I was talking about myself, about a trip I had always put off, about painting, which I wanted to return to, about a life that was mine. 6 months passed. Autumn turned to winter, and then spring arrived once more. I enrolled in watercolor classes, converted the guest room into an art studio, bought tickets to Italy. My home became a place of quiet and light. I occasionally saw David. He came over for Thanksgiving. Alone, sat for an hour, drank coffee, talked about work, didn't ask for money, didn't hint at it. He looked older, more mature. Laura didn't come. Neither did Ethan. I sent him a birthday card with $20 inside. There was no reply, and that was fine. Some might say this is a sad story, that a mother should endure anything for her family, but they don't know what it feels like to be tolerated instead of loved. To be not a mother, but a wallet. When I took away the money, I took away their power over me. I didn't need to scream, to fight, to get revenge. I simply stepped out of the game. On a cool morning, I sat in the backyard. A blanket, hot coffee, silence. The sun was rising over the houses, painting the sky in soft gold. And in that moment, I felt it. Deep, quiet, complete. Relief. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a bank. I wasn't an object of ridicule. I was simply Eleanor. And for the first time in a very long time, being myself was more than enough.